The rain hammered down on the streets of New York City, the cold droplets bouncing off the roof of Leon Carter's battered yellow taxi. The wipers struggled to keep the windshield clear as he navigated the near-empty streets, his eyes heavy from a long shift. It was nearing midnight, and all he wanted was to park the cab, head to his cramped apartment, and collapse into bed. But as he turned onto a quieter road, the beam of his headlights caught something unusual. A figure slumped against a lamppost on the sidewalk, partially obscured by the heavy rain. Leon slowed the car, his heart sinking. "Please don't let this be trouble," he muttered to himself, pulling the cab to the curb. Grabbing an umbrella from the passenger seat, he stepped into the downpour. The rain immediately soaked through his jacket, the chill biting into his skin. As he approached, he saw her, a young woman, her face pale, her clothes clinging to her frail frame. Her head lolled to the side, and her breathing was shallow. "Miss," Leon called out, crouching beside her. "Are you okay? Hey, can you hear me?" Her lips parted, and a faint whisper escaped. "Help me." Leon's pulse quickened. He shook her shoulder gently, but she didn't respond. For a moment, he hesitated. What if this got complicated? What if helping her brought him more trouble than he could afford? But the thought of walking away left a sour taste in his mouth. He wasn't that kind of person. "All right," he said, more to himself than to her. "Let's get you some help." With a grunt of effort, Leon scooped her up into his arms, her body alarmingly light. The rain pelted his face as he hurried back to the taxi, struggling to balance the umbrella while shielding her from the storm. He placed her gently in the back seat, tucking his own worn jacket around her shivering form before sliding into the driver's seat. "Hang in there," he murmured, glancing back at her through the rearview mirror. The tires screeched as he sped toward the nearest hospital, his mind racing. The ER entrance was a blur of fluorescent lights and bustling medics as Leon pulled up and ran inside, shouting for help. 2 nurses quickly appeared with a gurney, and Leon helped transfer the girl onto it. "She collapsed on the street," he explained, his words hurried. "I don't know what's wrong, but she's not responsive." The nurses nodded, wheeling her away as a doctor joined them, barking orders. Leon stood frozen, his drenched clothes clinging to him as the chaos unfolded. He didn't even know her name. "Sir?" one of the nurses called, snapping him out of his thoughts. "Are you a relative?" Leon shook his head. "No, I found her." "Do you know her name?" He hesitated. "No, she didn't. She couldn't tell me." The nurse gave him a tight smile. "All right, thank you. We'll take it from here. You can wait in the lobby if you want." Leon nodded, unsure of what else to do. Sitting in the hard plastic chair of the waiting room, Leon tapped his foot restlessly, his thoughts bouncing between exhaustion and worry. He didn't owe this girl anything, and yet he couldn't bring himself to leave. Something about her fragile state tugged at him. As the minutes dragged on, Leon stared at his hands, slick with rainwater and trembling from the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He told himself he would wait just a little longer to make sure she was okay, and then he'd leave. "Sir?" "Sir." Leon looked up to see the nurse approaching him. "She's stable," the nurse said. "It seems like she collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. She'll need rest and fluids, but she's lucky you brought her in when you did." Relief washed over him, and he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That's good to hear. Would you like to leave your contact information? In case she wants to reach out to you later?" Leon paused, then nodded. "Yeah, sure." Leon walked past the room where the girl was being treated. Through the small window, he could see her resting, her face still pale but peaceful. For a moment, his gaze caught on something glinting against her wrist, a delicate diamond bracelet that sparkled even in the dim light. It was striking, out of place with the rest of her disheveled appearance. "Who are you?" he murmured under his breath before turning away, leaving the hospital and stepping back into the rain-soaked night. Little did he know, the answer to that question would change his life forever. The hospital waiting room was eerily quiet in the early hours of the morning, save for the occasional shuffle of nurses and the muffled voices of doctors down the hall. Leon sat hunched in his chair, his elbows resting on his knees, his fingers laced together tightly. He glanced at the clock for the 100th time. It was nearly 3 a.m. "You should go home," a passing nurse suggested kindly, pausing by his chair. Leon shook his head. "I'll stay a little longer." The nurse nodded and moved on, leaving Leon alone with his thoughts. He didn't know this girl, didn't even know her name, but something about the way she had looked, pale and helpless in the rain, had struck a chord. Despite the countless struggles in his own life, he couldn't bring himself to just walk away. He stared at the sterile white walls, thinking about the bills piling up at home, his sister's tuition, and the repairs his taxi desperately needed. He had enough problems of his own, but for some reason this girl felt like his responsibility now. Sophia Harper stirred, the soft beeping of a heart monitor pulling her from the fog of unconsciousness. Her eyelids fluttered open, and for a moment, she blinked at the unfamiliar surroundings, the hospital room's pale walls, the IV in her arm, the scratchy blanket draped over her. Her head throbbed, and memories from the past 24 hours came flooding back. The argument with her father, the hurried escape from the Harper mansion, and then darkness. "Good, you're awake." Sophia turned her head to see a nurse standing by the bedside, checking her vitals. "What happened?" Sophia croaked, her throat dry. "You collapsed," the nurse said gently. "A man found you on the street and brought you here. You were dehydrated and exhausted. You're lucky he acted quickly." "A man?" Sophia asked, confused. The nurse smiled. "Yes, he's been waiting in the lobby for hours. Would you like to see him?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded faintly. Leon rubbed his eyes, suppressing a yawn, when the nurse approached him. "She's awake and wants to see you," the nurse said. Leon stood, surprised. "Oh, sure. Lead the way." When he entered the room, his eyes landed on Sophia, sitting up in the hospital bed. She looked better than before, though her face was still pale, and there was a guarded look in her eyes. "Hi," Leon said, awkwardly shoving his hands into his jacket pockets. "How are you feeling?" Sophia's lips quirked into a faint smile. "Better, I think." She studied him for a moment, curiosity flickering in her gaze. "You're the one who brought me here." "Yeah," Leon replied, nodding. "You were unconscious on the street. I couldn't just leave you there." You didn't have to stay," Sophia said softly, her fingers fiddling with the edge of the blanket. Leon shrugged, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Someone had to. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. Over the next few hours, bits and pieces of Sophia's story began to unfold. She was vague about the details, but Leon learned enough to know she was carrying a heavy burden. "I just needed to get away for a while," Sophia said, her voice quiet. "From what?" Leon asked, genuinely curious. Sophia hesitated. "My family. It's complicated." Leon nodded, sensing she wasn't ready to share more. Families usually are. Sophia smiled faintly, surprised by his empathy. Unbeknownst to Leon, the situation was far more complicated than he could have imagined. Sophia Harper wasn't just any young woman. She was the daughter of Richard Harper, one of the wealthiest and most influential entrepreneurs in the city. Her life had been a gilded cage, filled with privilege but devoid of freedom. The argument that had driven her to the streets was the culmination of years of tension. Sophia had wanted to carve her own path, pursue a career in art, travel, live on her own terms. But her father had other plans, insisting she join the family business and marry a man of his choosing to secure a powerful merger. The pressure had been suffocating, and in a moment of desperation, Sophia had fled, leaving behind her phone, wallet, and the sheltered world she had known. As the morning light crept through the hospital blinds, Sophia found herself surprisingly at ease with Leon. There was something about him, his unassuming kindness, his down-to-earth demeanor, that made her feel safe. Leon, for his part, assumed Sophia was just another struggling young woman, like so many others in the city. He couldn't have guessed the truth behind her guarded eyes. When he offered to call someone to pick her up, she hesitated. "No, not yet," she said quickly. "I'll figure it out. I just need some time." Leon raised an eyebrow but didn't press her. "All right. Well, if you need anything, I'm around." Sophia's gaze softened. "Thank you, Leon. For everything." "Anytime," he replied with a small smile. As he left the room, Sophia watched him go, her heart heavy but touched. For the first time in a long time, someone had seen her as a person, not a Harper. And she wasn't sure she wanted that to change. The cafe smelled of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries as Sophia and Leon sat at a small corner table. The morning rush had passed, leaving them a rare moment of peace. Sophia stirred her latte absent-mindedly, glancing at Leon over the rim of her cup. "You didn't have to come," Leon said, leaning back in his chair. Sophia smiled. "I owed you a thank you. Consider this coffee part of it." "I told you, you don't owe me anything," Leon replied, his tone firm but kind. You needed help and I happened to be there. End of story. Sophia studied him, her smile fading slightly. Not many people would have done what you did. Leon shrugged, looking a bit uncomfortable with the praise. Guess I'm not most people. They shared a quiet moment, and for the first time in a long while, Sophia felt normal. Over the next few days, Sophia found herself drawn to Leon's company. She didn't tell him who she really was. Somehow she liked that he treated her like an ordinary person, not the daughter of a billionaire. Leon, for his part, didn't ask too many questions. He chalked up her hesitance to share details about her past as part of whatever had driven her to the streets in the first place. Instead, they talked about other things. Sophia quickly learned that Leon's life wasn't easy. It's just me and Emily now, Leon said one evening as they walked through a quiet park. She's in nursing school, and I'm doing everything I can to keep her there. Driving a cab pays the bills, but it's not enough to fix the taxi when it breaks down or to save her anything long-term. You want something more, Sophia said, her voice soft. Leon nodded, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Yeah. I've always dreamed of opening my own auto repair shop. I'm good with cars, but it feels like it's never going to happen. Sophia could hear the frustration in his voice, but there was also a quiet determination. He wasn't the kind of person to give up easily, and she admired that. One afternoon, Leon surprised Sophia by inviting her on a drive through the city. She hesitated at first, unsure of what he had planned, but his enthusiasm was contagious. You're not kidnapping me, are you? She teased as she climbed into the passenger seat of his cab. Leon smirked. Only if you consider a guided tour of my favorite spots a crime. They spent the next few hours weaving through the streets of New York, stopping at places that held special meaning for Leon. This is where Emily and I used to come as kids, he said, pointing to a small, rundown park. It's not much now, but back then, it was our whole world. At a tiny diner tucked away on a side street, he added, and this is where I had my first job. Best burgers in the city. Sophia found herself laughing at his stories and feeling a sense of connection to his world. The city, with all its grit and imperfections, felt alive in a way her pristine, sterile life had never been. A few days later, Leon invited Sophia to a neighborhood block party. The street was alive with music, the smell of grilled food, and the sound of children laughing as they ran through the crowd. Sophia had never experienced anything like it. She mingled with Leon's neighbors, who welcomed her warmly despite her unfamiliar face. Leon talks about you, one older woman said, nudging Sophia with a knowing smile. Not much, but enough to tell you're special. Sophia laughed, a blush creeping into her cheeks. When a local band started playing upbeat music, Leon grabbed her hand and pulled her into the dancing crowd. Leon, I can't dance, she protested, laughing as he spun her around. Sure you can, he said, grinning. You just have to stop overthinking it. To her surprise, she found herself letting go, dancing, laughing, and feeling lighter than she had in years. It was the happiest she'd been in a long time, and she couldn't help but notice how Leon's smile made everything seem brighter. Later that evening, as they walked back to her temporary apartment, the mood shifted. Leon reached out and gently took her wrist, his thumb brushing over a faint bruise she hadn't realized was still visible. Sophia, he began, his voice low and filled with concern. What are you running from? Sophia froze, the warmth of the evening replaced by a cold knot in her stomach. She quickly pulled her hand back, forcing a weak smile. It's nothing, she said. Just old mistakes catching up to me. Leon frowned but didn't press further, sensing her discomfort. All right, he said after a moment, his voice soft. But if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. As they parted ways, Sophia felt a pang of guilt. She wanted to trust Leon, to tell him the truth, but she was terrified of what might happen if he found out who she really was. For now, she decided, the truth could wait. But deep down, she knew it couldn't stay hidden forever. The small TV mounted in the corner of the diner buzzed with the evening news as Leon leaned against the counter, sipping his coffee. He wasn't paying much attention until the newscaster's voice caught his ear. And in other news, billionaire Richard Harper has issued a public plea for information regarding his missing daughter, Sophia Harper, last seen nearly 2 weeks ago. Leon froze, his cup halfway to his lips. His eyes snapped to the screen, where a picture of Sophia appeared. She was wearing an elegant evening gown, her smile polished and perfect. A stark contrast to the disheveled, rain-soaked girl he had rescued. Sources say Sophia, 24, left the Harper estate after a heated argument with her father. Security teams and law enforcement are actively searching for her, but her current whereabouts remain unknown. The rest of the broadcast became a blur as Leon's stomach churned. Sophia, the girl who had laughed with his neighbors and danced in the street, was the missing daughter of one of the richest men in the country. He set his cup down, his hands trembling. "She lied to me," he muttered under his breath, the words stinging like a slap. Later that evening, Leon stood outside the small apartment Sophia was renting. His mind raced as he knocked on the door, unsure what he'd say when she opened it. Sophia answered, her face lighting up briefly before falling at the sight of his expression. "Leon?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "What's wrong?" "Why don't you tell me?" he replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I saw the news," Leon said sharply. "Sophia Harper, missing daughter of Richard Harper. Is that you?" Sophia's face went pale, and she instinctively took a step back. "Leon, You lied to me," he cut her off, his voice rising. "All this time you were pretending to be someone you're not. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she stood her ground. "I wasn't pretending, I just wanted to be normal for once." "Normal?" Leon repeated, incredulous. "You've been hiding the truth from me since the day we met. How am I supposed to believe anything you've said was real?" Sophia's voice cracked as she tried to explain. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I needed a break from my life. My father controls everything I do, every decision I make. I couldn't breathe in that house anymore, Leon. I had to get away." Her words gave Leon pause, but the sting of betrayal was still fresh. "So what? You decided to play poor for a while. Pretend to care about people like me." "That's not fair," Sophia said, her voice trembling. "You have no idea what it's like to be surrounded by people who only see your name. Your money. With you, I finally felt like someone saw me." Leon's anger faltered, but the hurt remained. "So what was all this?" he asked, gesturing around the small apartment. "Just some experiment for you to see how the other half lives." Sophia's tears spilled over. "No, it was real, Leon. Everything we shared was real." Leon shook his head, stepping back toward the door. "I don't know if I can believe that anymore." Before either of them could say more, a knock came at the door, sharp and insistent. Sophia turned, dread settling in her stomach. The door opened to reveal two men in dark suits, her father's security team. "Miss Harper," one of them said, his tone curt. "It's time to come home." Sophia's shoulders sagged. "No, I'm not ready." "You don't have a choice," the man interrupted. "Your father is waiting." Sophia looked back at Leon, her heart breaking. "Leon, please." "Go," Leon said, his voice cold. "It's where you belong, isn't it?" Her face crumpled at his words, but the security team gave her no time to respond. They stepped forward, ushering her out of the apartment and into the waiting car. Leon stood in the doorway, watching as she was taken away. He felt a pang in his chest as their eyes met one last time through the car's tinted window. As the car drove off, disappearing into the city lights, Leon clenched his fists. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything they had shared had been a lie, or worse, a fleeting illusion. Yet, as the silence of the empty apartment pressed down on him, he couldn't stop wondering, what if it wasn't? Leon sat on the edge of his bed, the soft hum of the city filtering through the window. His hands rested on his knees as he stared at the floor, his thoughts consumed by Sophia. He replayed every moment, the way she had danced at the block party, her laughter ringing out as they twirled under the string lights, the softness in her eyes when she spoke about finding herself. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the memory of her. The girl he'd come to care for wasn't the product of privilege or wealth. She was the person who had rolled up her sleeves to help his neighbors, who had listened to his struggles without judgment, and who had laughed at his terrible jokes. Her last words echoed in his mind, "With you, I finally felt like someone saw me." Maybe, just maybe, he had been too quick to judge her. Sophia stared out of the massive bay window in her room, the city skyline sprawling far below. The Harper mansion was a monument to wealth, with its gilded walls and luxurious furnishings, but to Sophia, it felt suffocating. Her father's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp and commanding. "Sophia, this is ridiculous," Richard Harper said, pacing her room. "You've had your fun, but it's time to focus on what matters, your role in this family and our business." Sophia clenched her fists. "What matters to you, Dad? Not to me." Richard turned to face her, his expression hard. "You think running away solved anything?" Look where it got you. You belong here, where you can actually make a difference." "I was making a difference," Sophia snapped, her voice shaking. "I was helping people, Dad. People who needed it. Not because of a business deal, but because it was the right thing to do." Her father scoffed. "Idealistic nonsense. You're wasting your potential." Sophia squared her shoulders, her heart pounding. "No, Dad. I'm wasting my life by staying here, letting you dictate everything I do. I love you, but I won't let you control me anymore." Richard stared at her, stunned into silence. "I'm leaving," Sophia said firmly. "And this time it's for good." Leon pulled up outside the community center, the cab's engine idling as he took a deep breath. He had spent days wrestling with his feelings, but the more he thought about Sophia, the more he realized he couldn't let her go without a fight. She had changed his life, opened his eyes to a world beyond his daily struggles, and reminded him of the importance of connection, of joy, of hope. Inspired by her bravery, Leon had spent the past week organizing something special. Now, as he stepped out of the cab and approached the gathering crowd, he hoped it would be enough. Sophia arrived at the small, familiar street to find the entire community waiting for her. Colorful banners and strings of lights crisscrossed the block, and the air buzzed with excitement. "What is this?" she whispered, her heart racing. Then she saw it, a massive mural painted on the side of a building. It depicted scenes from the block party, children playing in the streets, and even her laughing as she danced with Leon. In bold letters, the words "Thank you," Sophia stretched across the top. Tears filled her eyes as she turned and spotted Leon standing near the mural, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets, his expression both nervous and hopeful. She approached him slowly, her emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "Did you do this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Not just me," Leon said. "The whole neighborhood pitched in. You left a mark here, Sophia. People wanted to show you what you mean to them." Sophia looked around, seeing the faces of the people she had come to know and care for. Her heart swelled. Leon took a step closer, his voice soft but steady. "I don't care where you come from or how much money you have. What matters is who you are, and who you've made me want to be." He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. "I was a fool to push you away, and I'm sorry." Sophia wiped her eyes, her breath catching. "You didn't push me away, Leon. I was afraid. Afraid of losing you because of who I am." "You don't have to be afraid anymore," Leon said, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "Stay. Be part of this, with me." Sophia smiled through her tears, her heart finally at peace. "I just want to be with you." Leon grinned, pulling her into a warm embrace as the crowd erupted into cheers. Around them, the music started up, and the block came alive with laughter and celebration. As they stood together, Sophia felt lighter than she ever had before. For the first time, she wasn't running from her family, her name, or herself. She had found a place where she truly belonged, and she wasn't letting it go. The morning light filtered through the window of Leon's newly opened repair shop, casting a warm glow over the neatly organized tools and freshly painted walls. The shop wasn't big, but it was his. A dream finally realized. Leon stood at the counter, tinkering with a carburetor, when he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Not bad, Carter," Sophia teased, leaning against the doorframe, "though I think it's missing a touch of flair. Maybe a plant or two?" Leon grinned, setting down his tools to greet her. "Flair? This is a garage, not an art gallery." Sophia laughed, crossing the room to stand beside him. Her presence filled the space, not with her wealth or status, but with the quiet confidence and warmth Leon had come to love. After defying her father's expectations, Sophia had chosen to leave the Harper family business, walking away from a life of corporate mergers and cold boardrooms. Instead, she had poured her energy and resources into helping Leon build his repair shop, combining his mechanical skills with her newfound knack for business. "Think of it as an investment," she had told him with a sly smile when they first started planning, but one with no strings attached. With her help, Leon's dream became a reality. The shop quickly became a cornerstone of the neighborhood, a place where locals came not just for car repairs, but for connection and conversation. Months passed and Leon and Sophia's bond only deepened. They spent their days working side by side, their evenings laughing over simple dinners, and their weekends dancing at block parties or volunteering at the community center. It was a life neither of them had expected, but one they wouldn't trade for anything. One crisp autumn evening, Leon invited Sophia to the block where they had first danced together. The street was alive with music and laughter, the string lights twinkling like stars overhead. "What's all this?" Sophia asked, looking around as they strolled hand in hand. "You'll see," Leon said, a nervous smile playing on his lips. As they reached the center of the block, the crowd parted, revealing a small stage. At its center was the mural the community had painted months earlier, a tribute to Sophia and the impact she had made on their lives. Sophia gasped, her eyes glistening as she turned to Leon. "What did you do?" she whispered. Instead of answering, Leon stepped onto the stage, pulling her gently along with him. The music quieted, and the crowd grew still as Leon took a deep breath, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box and knelt before her. "Sophia," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "When you stepped into my life that night, everything changed. I thought I was saving you, but the truth is you saved me. You taught me to dream again, to believe in something bigger than myself." Sophia's hands flew to her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "I don't care about your name or where you come from," Leon continued. "All that matters is the woman standing in front of me, the one who's made my world brighter in every way." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Sophia Harper," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "Will you marry me, not as the millionaire's daughter, but as the woman I love?" Sophia let out a shaky laugh, nodding through her tears. "Yes, but only if you promise never to call me by my last name again." The crowd erupted into cheers and applause as Leon stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. He pulled her into a tight embrace, the world around them fading as they held onto each other. Their wedding was a celebration of love, humility, and community. Held in the very neighborhood where their story began, it was a simple yet beautiful affair. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered to witness their union, the air filled with joy and laughter. Sophia wore a flowing gown that seemed to shimmer under the afternoon sun, while Leon looked dashing in a tailored suit that his neighbors had pooled together to gift him. Even Richard Harper attended, standing quietly at the back. Though he had struggled to accept Sophia's choices, seeing her happiness had softened him, and he had reluctantly given his blessing. As Leon and Sophia exchanged vows, the crowd fell silent, hanging on their every word. "I promise to stand by you," Leon said, his voice filled with emotion, "not because of where you've been or what you've lost, but because of the person you are and the life we're building together." "And I promise," Sophia replied, her voice steady despite her tears, "to always see you for the man you are, the one who saved me in more ways than one." As the evening wore on, the newlyweds shared their first dance under the canopy of string lights. The crowd swayed around them, the gentle hum of music blending with the warmth of laughter. Sophia rested her head on Leon's shoulder, her voice soft as she whispered, "You didn't just save me that night, you gave me a life I never knew I needed." Leon tightened his hold on her, his smile full of quiet contentment. "And you gave me the strength to dream again." Under the twinkling lights and surrounded by the people they loved, Leon and Sophia danced, their hearts full of gratitude and love for the unexpected journey that had brought them to this moment, and the life they would build together. As Leon and Sophia danced under the twinkling lights, their story reminds us of the beauty of unexpected connections and how love can bridge even the widest gaps. A chance encounter brought them together, but it was their courage to trust, grow, and dream that created a love to last a lifetime. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and share it with someone who believes in the power of second chances and true love. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that inspire and move you. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another tale that reminds us all of the magic life can bring. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.